squirrels. So if I was in like an amphitheater to like flash light up and like in the setting I can't connect.
And then I went and checked the last town.
There it is. Yeah. And it works well for everything except maybe Snake River stuff. Because everybody has the same stuff, so it's like, oh, that's okay. Everything gets
Maybe we should get more benches? Thanks for coming.
Hi, Bethany.
Thank you guys for coming. Dr. Crawford and I had a really hard time naming this workshop, so we're like, it's Snake River, it's easy, we're just gonna throw it together and like let everybody come. The gist of it is that we're talking about mental health in the physical space. A lot of times well, the fitness world is marketed to us for like a specific goal, weight loss or muscle growth or something like that. But most of us have developed an attachment to it because we know it helps us with our mental health. But if we go, like let's say we go to the gym, a normal gym, and ask for a personal trainer to help us, if we're going with a mental health goal in mind, we have to wade through, like, are you here to lose weight? Should I talk to you about your nutrition? All those things will help mental health, but the industry is geared for another goal. So we decided to approach it from a mental health perspective, so that if we are seeking out fitness for that reason, we don't have to wade through all the other stuff to like get to the thing of why we're there. I'm Bethany. I'm a massage therapist and a CrossFit coach. Kimberly is a PhD and social worker. She works with trauma and has a contract with local fire departments so that she can help firefighters get into I don't know what the word is, a downregulated state before they head home. So not bringing like their workday with them. This type of work is done for any industry. That's just kind of where she's landed. We crossed paths because I love CrossFit, and as you know, a lot of first responders, law enforcement land in CrossFit. So as I've gone through training people, athletes coming through the gym, I'm finding a lot of like intersection of this mental health space. She's a lot more educated and smarter than me, so if you may have noticed I added massage therapist twice, so I have more letters like my name, so it looks more even. California and Idaho, it's 2 different certifications, so it's kind of a big deal. My work with my work with massage therapy is what kind of put me in the world of what we would call post-traumatic stress. I use that phrase because it's something that we're all familiar with, but I don't like the diagnosis and I don't like the label. I think the label is helpful for us, so we know what we're talking about. But out of that, I consider it part of a normal human experience that our culture just doesn't have the space to contain or work with. So that's my disclaimer there. A disproportionate amount of people seek out body work as a way to work through emotional stuff. But same as fitness, my entire education is flesh and blood. And our education around helping with mental health is like, don't do it. Obviously, I can't talk somebody through their issues. It's totally out of my scope, and that's true. But if I'm having people seek out my work for this specific reason, I should have some tools to work with it in a way. Before I got into the field of massage therapy, I worked in the dental field in oral surgery, which sounds horrible. That might give some people post-traumatic stress hearing about that. But what I linked together with those two fields is that in the world of dental surgery, everything is predictable. When you're working with soft tissue heals in 7 to 10 days. Always, unless somebody has like a major medical issue. Bone heals in 6 to 8 weeks. Nerves heal in 10 to 12 weeks. Every single time. It's predictable. So in the world of massage therapy or like post-traumatic stress, to me, I'm like, there has to be a measurable way that we can like go through this post-traumatic stress piece or mental health piece. There has to be something predictable about it. It's happening in our physical body. It's blood, flesh, bone, nerves. The same rules should apply. That was what I thought. So that's kind of my way I landed in this space. Let me see. Yeah. Another piece of this that was really important to me is that for the small group of people that do come to me for the specific reason of mental health or specifically post-traumatic stress, because it creates such a profound effect on the body, what I happened is as people were coming into my room, the normal like massage stuff that works for 90% of people doesn't work for them. But if I can tailor what I'm doing to them, it works for everybody else and way better, because we're targeting something that's universal to all humans. I'm not just doing what's wrong with this one muscle and this one person for this, it hurts when they do this thing. If I can target what's common to all of us, we all have a nervous system controlling everything else in our body, then that works for everyone and on a better, like deeper level, more effective, all the things. I have some clients that have come to me that can't tolerate touch. Like, how does that, right? If you're like, I need this, I need some, when we want a mental health day, get a pedicure, go get a massage. What if somebody's so overstimulated or touch is so threatening to them that they can't even tolerate human touch? That's not a good way to go through life. But if we can work together, I found ways in massage therapy to work with them, then we can get them to a place where they can start to develop that ability. This kind of lands us in the world of fitness, because we have a lot of law enforcement, fire, industries that we recognize as being prone to post-traumatic stress or mental health stuff. Whether or not people identify with that or not, those industries are there. So they may seek out the gym, not just like with body work, not just for like a sore muscle. They might be coming to the gym because they need a mental health place to go. And the gym is therapeutic. Going for a walk every day, a therapist might tell people, get active, it's good for your mental health. But that's the side effect. You'll get strong, you'll get fitter, you'll get more cardiovascular endurance. The side effect is there's some mental health thing over here that we don't know how to facilitate. It just gets better. But if you're seeking it out for mental health, then we've got a big gap of like how we can support that. Because you all know when you're in a headspace and you're like, I can do the thing, and then you do it and you push your fitness level, you might injure your body, because that break that you normally have, you're able to just push past it because you're like a tough cookie. Okay, all that to say, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to talk for about 30 minutes, and then Dr. Crawford will come up after, and then we'll take Q&A. It's a very relaxed environment if you haven't noticed. So, from there. Okay, let me go to my next. Okay, I think this is helpful to just define in this context what I'm talking about when I'm talking about trauma or post-traumatic stress. Dr. Gabor Mate has written a bunch of books. He was born during the Holocaust, like he was like 18 months old when his parents got out or something around that time. So his family history was littered with this. We can all recognize this universally as a very traumatic event. So his entire professional life has been dedicated to like how to work through trauma. So this is what he says: trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what happens inside you as a result of what happens to you. This is why I think fire is a great example of 8 firefighters can go onto a scene and they all come out, and they all have the same experience, but 1 or 2 can't sleep for another few weeks. It's not the event, it's what happens inside of us. Where our culture, I won't go off on this because it makes me really mad, where our culture is really irritating is like, oh, well, there must be something wrong with you because you had a response to this very upsetting situation, nobody else had that response. So it's not a blame thing. Whatever happens inside of us, again, this is flesh and blood, tissues, there's a reason physiologically why this happens to some people and not others. It makes me mad. So my face is getting hot. Yes, it is self-soothing, thank you. She has all the like fancy words.
What's wrong with you?
Other people in this setting wouldn't respond this way, and that's okay. One way that I like to think about this is this mechanism that we've identified that works with trauma is part of what's called a long latency reflex loop. We all have them in our body. This is when you pick up a hot cup of coffee and it's extremely hot, and you don't have to think about it, but your brain, through a series of nervous system networks, the thing goes to your brain that says this is freaking hot, and then your brain says I better let this go, and then it happens. So there's a loop for this, and there's a timing for this. For us, it's automatic, we don't even think about it. But there is, like they've measured, I'm gonna forget the measurement, but like milliseconds in between these events. And certain events happen faster than others, but they're all subconscious to us. But it tells me we can influence. If there's space, we can influence a change there. This long latency reflex loop that we have with the hot cup of coffee, that can also happen when we walk into a gym, and a gym is like terrifying to us or reminds us of bad memories from high school. All same network. It's the nervous system. It's not an emotional weird thing with us. It's like it works in a repeatable, predictable way. It is also worth mentioning that when this happens, like the latency reflex loop thing, we can tell someone, oh my gosh, I picked up this hot cup of coffee and then I dropped it and it was so hot, but that's happening so fast, it's actually not part of the language part of our brain. So babies have the same reflex, right? Even though they can't tell us what's happening, if they touch something hot, it's not happening in the language center. They didn't have to be told, this is hot, do this. When we experience an emotional overload or an overwhelming situation, it's not part of our language circuit of our brain. So our, God bless the psychiatric approach, but talk therapy is only going to take us so far because a lot of these patterns occur in a part of the brain where our language isn't stored. We don't have language for it. We try to develop language for it. We try to say, this is what happened, this is how I feel about it, but it can only get us so far. So when we think about positive thinking or changing our thinking, we're missing the biology that's built in. Is this news or puppy? Okay, no puppy. Hi guys. Okay, can be discouraging to think of it this way because it may feel like it's trapped away in like a closet we can't access, we can't speak about it, what do we do? But because it's coded into our biology, it's just as predictable as like dental surgery. We'd have people all day, 5 in a row, same, whatever, in dental implants, same, everybody. They have different health history, different family, different finances, but we know this procedure is gonna be predictable. Same thing happens with these neural circuits of our body. We just have to work with it in a specific way, and that's Kimberly's expertise. I can do it with the body without words, but she's got a good thing going over here. Okay. We developed, this is kind of 1600s, philosopher came up with this, I think, therefore I am. This has shaped our modern psychological approach, but it's missing a piece. In the 1960s, a neuroscientist said, I feel, therefore I am. I think that's more appropriate. What he's talking about is not just like, oh, I'm in love, I feel warm and fuzzy about something. He's saying, I feel a hot cup of coffee, that tells me that I exist because now I can affect the world around me with my behavior because I perceived this sensation in my body. Like, is that not freaking cool? So this is so much bigger than just like, I think I am a person, I exist. No, I feel. Okay, I have a story about feelings and how we get exposed to certain things in our environment. So this actually happened on the way here, I wasn't planning it. I don't know if you guys are you guys like married? And everybody agrees on the thermostat in the car, right? Okay. sometimes what happens is Greg, I'm sorry, Greg will come home and he'll come home at night and like the AC's off, right? Windows are down, it feels really nice. And then the car sits there and then we get in the car like the next morning, like 10 a.m. and it's like roasting in the sun. And I get in the car and he gets in the car. We're both having the exact same experience, right? Same temperature, same sunshine, whatever. What I perceive is that I'm going to die in that car. And my brain decides that it makes sense to be very, very angry at Greg and not say anything about it. So we drive, because we've been married 16 years, so like, you should know by now, we're driving down the street, and at some point I realized like, he's never gonna turn it on. He's not uncomfortable. This is like, I have to say, and then I say it really mean, and then we get into the same fight. We have our whole marriage and nothing gets better, but that's how body works. Okay, nobody else has ever had this experience, I see. The reason I bring that up is because it shows us that the experience is not the thing. We're both having the same experience, but on a cellular nervous system level, what's happening? I get in the car, my body is receiving information that there's a certain temperature in the car that I think, my brain thinks it means that I'm very uncomfortable. He's getting the same sensory information, but his brain thinks it means I don't know what you're thinking, it doesn't make any sense to me. He's very comfortable, he likes it. We are gonna drive forever in the scalding hot heat, we can't breathe. His brain thinks this is great. So he's not moved to do anything. In this period of time, my chemical cocktail in my body has turned into all the things, right? Stress, cortisol, all the hormones I don't even know names for. Greg's is like whatever. So this same experience created a very different internal experience for each of us. Neither one is wrong. We just have a different way of making meaning of this experience. Okay. This is an interesting approach too, because a lot of us have been exposed to temperature therapy or cold exposure, right? Like ice baths, and we think oh, this is really cool. The meaning behind that is the same as getting in the car. If I just decide I'm in this hot car and I can work with this, and I decide I'm gonna push myself to push past this mental limitation, I could do that, right? That's CrossFit. This weight feels heavy, but I can do it. And then we build this tolerance where we previously had a ceiling we push past. So that code can get cracked, but it has an application in a much broader sense than just the hot car or the ice bath or the barbell. Somebody who previously cannot tolerate touch can begin to tolerate it and enjoy it and have it have a therapeutic effect in time using the same mechanism that we would do to push cold exposure or progressive overload with the barbell. It's the same, it's flesh and blood. We tend to separate it, one's mental health, one's physical. It's the same pathways. I thought these were cute. Anybody know how this feels? Christmas story. Not a finger. But you can look at this and you see how it feels, right? Maybe there's some I thought, my first thought when I saw this was hot apple cider. Not even in the picture, but I feel it, I smell it. Yeah, that's a physical experience that I'm having. Happy memories. Anybody floated a river? Done one of these, jump off a bridge? Not onto a raft. When I saw this picture, I heard people laughing. Yeah, so our experience that we're having in our body, what we make meaning of it, if you knew somebody who did this and belly flopped, you would have a different feeling about this picture than I do. It's a full feedback loop. We see or feel a sensation, we make meaning, and then we act based on that. Act. Okay. The common ground that I was talking about from fitness, mental health, trauma, all the things, is our autonomic nervous system. This is a picture of how the nerves in our neck affect our body. So somebody's oh, I really need a neck massage. And I'm well, their thumb hurts, so I'm gonna work on a different nerve than if their pinky hurt. You may not have ever needed to know that, but if you see a massage therapist, they'll do that for you. It's different nerves in the neck. I'll save that for a little later, why that's really important. I put the car and I'm gonna die story on this slide, so I'm just mulling that over. Okay, so we're thinking about how we can influence the this long latency reflex loop in the body, a hot cup of coffee going here and going there. There's little seconds in between, not even a full second, but little seconds in between. We have like the flow chart here, the body and brain connection. The body receives a stimulus, hot coffee, brain processes, what does this mean? I'm gonna burn my hand. It decides, what should I do? And it sends chemicals like stress, which is a good thing. Stress, I wanna get this, that's your activity. Let this go. If you're playing hide and seek and you're hiding and you can hear, so you're like, not to breathe, and somebody walks by, your body's gonna make a different decision. Yeah? Shut it down so you don't get found. And then the action, what to do with that. Drop the cup of coffee, stop breathing, whatever the thing is. But it's important to separate out these pieces so we don't think they're all the same thing, right? Traumatic event, I'm depressed. There's a lot of space in there that we can work with. Viktor Frankl said, one of my favorite things ever, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. He was also a Holocaust survivor and developed an entire mode of psychotherapy based on his experiences there and based on this principle. I think it's beautiful because we think of that and we're like, we understand that. If Greg doesn't turn on the AC, I have a choice of how I'm going to speak to him. That's a conscious choice. But this statement is true on a biological level that we don't even have to think about. We can influence our nervous system to respond a certain way and change our response based on what Kim and I are going to talk about. Let's take a moment to see how our nerves, like our actual flesh and blood nerves, can affect us on a body level. So I'm going to have you guys just focus on how you're sitting. So I want you to think about where your tush is on the seat and just bring attention to it. Some people might want to close their eyes, not everybody's an eye closer, that's fine. As you're breathing in, focus on your pelvis. You might notice the right side or the left side being more pressure than the other. You might notice front to back, there's more pressure or less. Think about the base of support that your whole body is resting on. If it's a shape, maybe it's a square or a triangle. Bring your attention to your knees and ankles, your feet. Think about how you're supported by the floor or by what you're sitting on right now. Bring your attention back up, your ankles, knees, and hips, and bring your attention to your spine. As you scan from the very base of your spine up to your neck, are you aware of the 3 natural curves that make up the spine, or does it feel flat like a board? Does it feel arched one way or the other? You might notice you feel a little rotated. Right side or left side is rotated towards the front or back. Notice if you feel, as you're breathing, a pull to the front of the body, top of the body, or the bottom. What part of the body wants to expand most naturally while you're breathing? Think about the distance from your shoulders to your ears. Is it the same on both sides? Maybe one feels shorter than the other. Notice your shoulder blade on your upper back, that little triangle, if it feels up or down or scabbed out. Notice if your weight and breath is leaning towards the front or back of the body, the right or the left side. Okay, now that you've got a full body scan, let's do a little bit of nerve work. Super easy. So first, take your fingers, which we learned have a lot of nerves in them. And I want you to tap along the base of your neck and up to the hairline, just up and down and around the sides. And you can give it a little bit of weight if you want, doesn't matter. Good, and then we'll come in front of the ears, right along the jaw. To the ears and down under the jaw. And then up and around the eyes. And get like where they tell you you're never supposed to touch because you'll get like old lady skin. Touch there. You might feel tenderness here. Little spots are sensitive. Keep coming down the face. and around the nose, and then up on the top of the head. All of this is nerve work. It's easier than you think. And then we're going to take our hands and pull down on our earlobes. Good. And then you'll pull back, like kind of back and that way. You'll feel like one part of this is going to feel like so amazing, and you can like tick-tock back there if you want. And then finish with a nice big pull up. And then, it's weird in a group, but stick your thumb in your ear, and there's this little guy right here, this little tiny doodad. Try to pinch that and pull it down to the ground, and then out to the side. And you can even switch around with your index finger. Give that a little movement. Good. Last thing, we're gonna lift our shoulders up to our ears like a little pillow for our neck, and we're gonna drop our neck down and slide, and just let your ears sit to the side on your one shoulder, just like a little pillow, and then roll around the other way. Yeah. Nice and easy. Good. And then we're gonna shift our shoulders from like the front, we're gonna shift them to the back here, and let it be a pillow back here. And then we're gonna go all the way around, letting your neck rest on that pillow. Go around about 2 times. Good, good, good. Great. How do you feel? Feels good. We can change our state quite a bit just by tapping into some of these nerves. The nerves of the face and neck tend to be our rest and relaxation nerves. When we think about little babies, when they see us, if we're a mommy or even an auntie, and when they see you and their whole face lights up, you know how they feel. They're probably gonna have a great poo later, right? Like all their systems are connected to this. So, but when we see somebody we don't like, or if we have, like somebody does something, or like, this changes, like probably gonna be constipated, run, like poo's gonna change, digestion's gonna change. These nerves of the face communicate deep, deep into our body. I don't have time to go through our full body scan, but I'll invite you to just check in again after doing that simple nerve work and just see how your body feels sitting. If there's any shift as you take a few breaths in, where your breath wants to go in the body, how the shoulders feel, distance to ears. We can make some really big changes in the body with some simple changes in the nerves. This is one of the nerves that is going to affect the thumb that I would work on in massage therapy. This also can bother you with like overhead movements. I'm showing you this so that you know it kind of takes some of the mystery away. When we can say, like in dentistry, if I want this tooth to be numb or this tooth to be numb, I'm going to put the thing. This might be very traumatizing for some people. I don't mind dentistry, but it makes sense. There's like there's a method to it. But as clients come into my space, they'll tell me there's like a, not simple, but like there's a really easy fix for like a knee issue. And some people are like, oh my God, I thought I was gonna have to get a knee replacement. I have to get a $100,000 procedure and 6 weeks away from my work and all this stuff for like a simple thing. If we have some autonomy and terminology around our physical body, it's a huge help for not just physical stuff, but emotional too. So that's why I like bringing up these issues. When you have tingling somewhere, where is it? Pain somewhere, where? Is it sharp? Is it cold? Is it hot? Narrow it way down, and then we can get so many answers. And that'll happen too, like how my face got red talking about the car or the modern state of psychology. Like, that's my experience with it. I know what's happening in my body. But you can imagine if you know, we're exposed to a situation and all of a sudden we're like, why is my heart panicking? Nothing is happening here. Everybody's happy. Why am I the one that's having a panic attack? There's nothing around me outside that would, no, it's our experience. We can learn some literacy with it. This is the trigeminal nerve. This is higher up on the brainstem. This is what innervates, again, the dental thing, but up into the eyes and the jaw. If anybody gets dental pain and it hurts like way more than you think it should, this is why. The trigeminal nerve doesn't go to the spinal cord first. It's like a direct shot to like the pain center of your brain. So it hurts like an effort, and that's not, you're not making it up. It's very painful. With these different nerves, my goal with this is to show you like trigeminal nerve is extremely influential in our body, and it just affects like this little square footage. C5 goes all the way down, but just to the thumb. It doesn't affect this like half of the arm. These are cool things. What Dr. Crawford is a specialist in is the vagus nerve. This also starts in the cervical spine here. I don't know if you knew this, but like the fight, flight, like high energy response only happens like from a biological level, it only happens in the middle of the spine. You knew that. So like this part of our body that like wants to do one of these, our heart is in this space. The only parts of our nervous system that control rest and digest are the very top, right in our neck, and right in our sacrum. And it makes sense when you think about how we hold, I always think of babies because it's just, we are so, we naturally take care of them a certain way. You think about holding a baby, right? And you're just stimulating the part of his body that's gonna make him rest. And when you look at him and that's stimulating this part of his body that's gonna make him rest. Yeah, and when he's doing this with his little blanket thing, he's learning how to activate so he can get moving and stuff. So these nerves are like so awesome. We learned how far-reaching the trigeminal nerve is, C5. Look at what the vagus nerve affects. Not just one muscle group, not one digit. It goes into the heart, it goes into the lungs, spleen, pancreas, guts. Everything is affected by the vagus nerve. So if we are going to make major hits with somebody's state of mind, this is the best nerve to go to. I can do all the little neck stuff, that's gonna make a little bit of a difference, but if we can affect the vagus nerve, that's the link between the visual and the visceral. So this is the moment that Viktor Frankl was talking about. We have space to make change on a subconscious level. This is where the money's at. Okay, thank you guys. Dr. Crawford's gonna talk to you now. No, I can't do that in class. I can do it here. I never am on time when I coach classes, so just make it better.
Okay.
This is the doodad.
The doodad.
Yeah. Yeah.
The doodad.
The doodad.
Okay. So Bethany and I haven't presented together. So as I'm listening, I'm trying to see where I can crisscross over. So I've been a professor for about 20 years, and I say that is a cautionary tale, and that if you ask me a question, you might want a sentence, and I'll give you a paragraph. So you just kind of fast forward me. I want to teach you a little bit about the nervous system in very practical ways, because I want you to understand that the body is always leading, always. And so I've started working with first responders more exclusively in the last year and a half. My specialty has been early childhood trauma. And it's people choose careers for a myriad of reasons that they think, but it's really the physiology. There's a reason you land in a certain career path. So we all were taught about the nervous system in school at some point. We were taught it from this traditional thinking that there's an on and an off, right? The sympathetic is the on and the parasympathetic is the off. And the way we were taught it is that they cannot happen at the same time. And that was because there was the assumption that there was a single vagus nerve. Stephen Porges, who is, we hijacked him, trauma therapists like stole him from his work. He found when he was researching colicky babies that there's actually two branches of the parasympathetic. And trauma therapists kind of knew this, we didn't have the science of it. But we've sat in front of clients who are telling us horrific things, just as calm as they could be. And yet their life did not reflect calm. So what he found is that there is the ventral vagal, and these words may or may not, I mean, there is going to be a quiz at the end. But the ventral vagal is what we were all taught. That's the branch of the nervous system that is about calm. And as Bethany was talking about, it is very much attached to the head, the lungs, and the heart. It is the nerve that helps us connect to each other. It is the most, if I use the term evolution and you don't like that, do not email me. Email Michaela. Like, she's satanic, we know evolution isn't real. But the damn dinosaur bones. Keep finding them everywhere. So, vagus is the most recently evolved. It's like the Tesla of the nervous system. It's myelinated, which is like an electrical conduit around the end of the nerve. It makes it more nuanced so that we can read subtleties in people's faces, in people's voices, our hearing changes with the ventral vagal activation. The spinal column, like Bethany was saying, is the activation. That's the sympathetic part of the nervous system. That's the when our alarm goes off in the morning, or when we're playing, or when we're trying to outrun the tiger. That is the same part of the body or the nervous system that activates all of that. The dorsal branch is the part that he discovered. That's the most archaic, evolutionarily. It is what collapses us. It is the emergency brake. So if you think of the car as a metaphor, the gas is the sympathetic. If my foot's off the gas and then I push on the brake, now I'm in ventral. That's the true slowing down. However, and this is where first responders really resonate, mental health therapists resonate, CrossFitters resonate. You can actually have the gas on and the emergency brake. So you can, I've seen the CrossFitter giggle. You're like, yes, sister. Right. You can look and act really pretty calm and cool and collected, but underneath, you're vibrating at a frenetic level. And I'm going to teach you how that happens and why it's so important for your physical and emotional health to actually work in a way that the emergency brake is off. Because that is, it's dangerous actually for a mammal to ride the emergency brake. We're not built for it. We're warm-blooded humans, mammals. The emergency brake cools our system, and we are meant to access that for a moment in time of survival, but we are not evolutionarily built to live there. This is why really in shape people can die of a heart attack when they're 50, which happens a lot with first responders, right? They're like, but we're so in shape. There you are. So the vagus nerve, Bethany had a much better picture. But what I want you to understand is that when you're in I'm going to try to avoid the word trauma because we all have pictures of what that means. When you're accessing a survival state, every organ in your body is playing along. So we might think, oh gosh, or we're aware of, oh, my breath has changed, or my palms are sweaty, or I'm sweating. Maybe my shoulders are up, but we don't go around going, oh, my kidneys are really in distress right now, or my liver is really trying to survive this moment. But it is, and that's what's so dangerous. It's because it's all trying to help us get safe. Safety is the same pathway of the nervous system as threat. Connection and protection are using the same neural pathways. This is why relationships are dependent on how much threat you're experiencing. It's why when first responders come into me or their families, they don't talk about the calls. They talk about the relationships. Not one person has come to me because they went on a bad call, or they called it a bad call. They come in because they don't experience joy anymore. Their families feel disconnected. They just don't, they're like, I know I love my children. I know this, but I don't feel it. And it's terrifying. So when we're talking about applying this into like the gym setting, it might be a little confusing. Like, I'm here to work out. But because you're using the same neuro pathway when you're working out as we do when we're trying to get safe, things are happening to your body that you're not intending to happen. And you're also not getting the consequence or the effect. So, any questions? First of all, because I like interaction, and you don't have to just, yeah, Bethany.
Okay, I understand but I think it's interesting coming, because we haven't presented before, having these two perspectives, because liver pain is often a component in shoulder pain, or liver issues are a component in shoulder, and kidneys with knees. But nobody
my kid.
I've been in so much distress. I think my knee hurts because my kidneys are panicked. Yeah.
What's really cool is as I've worked with different first responders long enough, they can identify. They're like, God, I've got some kidney pain. Like they become so attuned to their nervous system, they can actually identify, like, oh, I was with this guy and he was really an emotional wreck, and now I've been walking around, my side's hurting, or my hip, right, in the iliopsoas muscle or area is a part of all survival. So, for example, over the last couple of years, I've had a lot of stress in my personal life, and I've also noticed my hip flexors are just like tight. Like I can't stretch, but I'm doing my yoga and I'm doing the stretches. Went to a physical therapist, got some relief, but it comes back. Well, then I started reading a little bit more about the psoas and realized that is involved in every part of our safety response. So when I'm stretching, I might be accessing that area for that moment, but unless my body feels safe, it's gonna tighten back up. And by safe, I don't mean that I was walking around like in a war zone, but I was not living in a relationally safe space. What I want you to see from this is that our nervous systems are built to roll. Like, we don't have to look for Zen. We're not really built for that. We're built to go up and then down, up and then down. And some of our up is going to be higher and some of our up is going to be lower, but our system is built for experiencing environmental and internal cues and then responding to it. So we're not looking to live in a chronic state of meditative Zen, right? This is a normal response. I don't know if you can see it as well. It's a smaller space, but the kind of green is the parasympathetic override. So we're built, notice, for the parasympathetic to be in charge, to be leading. And then we get a mild stressor, and our sympathetic reacts, and our parasympathetic reacts in proportion until we level back out. A traumatic stressor should create a larger response. So when we meet people who are like, nothing phases me, I never have this, that is not a sign of health. This should happen proportionate to an event. It takes longer to roll back to a steady state. How many of you know people or have been called the person that the more crazy an event is, the calmer I get? You know those people? Their nervous system is not functioning in a way that it's actually built for. Something else is happening, and we'll talk about that. So over time, what happens, and this is all the CrossFitters, your nervous system, can I say that? Okay, I mean, you're not my people, and that's why I'm like, Bethany, is this what your people would respond to? But because I work with so many first responders, I mean, you're kind of my people, so I just know, I don't know how to care how cute you are, your nervous system is smart. Your brain is really smart and efficient, and it figures out, I'm going to be going up again, might as well stay up. So that, unfortunately, a mild stressor now creates this bigger response, but it doesn't mean you're going to look agitated, because if you have this other response happening, this dorsal dominant break, you might actually look calmer than someone who's having a healthy response to a similar stressor. Yeah.
For those of us in high stress situations, can we hack the system and widen that gap?
We can, but we're not actually going to hack it. We're going to utilize the nervous system the way it was built. So what we're going to do is, instead of teaching you how to ignore and override, we're going to teach you how to come back down in between the moments. I want you to respond. If the timer's chasing you, I want you to run your ass away, right? If the timer is not gonna leave, I want you to go into a dissociative state to survive it. I don't want you to live there. So, yes, exactly. I'm trying to watch my time. Okay. Oh, those are way too tiny to read. This is a normal, natural self-protective response pattern. And this is true no matter who you are. If you're a mammal, I've got nothing for you. But the first sign of something new, you saw Sierra do this. Someone came to the door, she went up. She was looking. That's arrest startle. That's something is new. Internal pain does the same thing. Emotional pain does the same thing. Our body goes, whoa. So there's a little bit of a sympathetic charge that should happen with that. It should mobilize us enough to become aware. Then we start defensive orienting. Naturally, every mammal that walks into a new environment will start looking. So do we. This movement alone, because our brain to body connection is 80% body to brain. This is why talk therapy does not work with a self-protective response. It does work very effectively if you're not in that state. But a lot of people come into therapy because they're in the state, but they don't know that they're there. So after we figure out this defensive orienting is, we're really using that hypothalamus, which is like the smoke detector. And when Bethany was talking about those nanoseconds, and this is like, I don't even know the measurement of time you measure this, but going down to the lower part of the brain goes faster than the message going up to the cortex. So that hypothalamus, that midbrain, has to, before you know it's made this decision, it has decided, am I in danger or not? And if I'm not going to send certain chemicals. I don't need to send the fight or flight chemicals. But if I am, I'm going to. That survival depends on us making sure that we overuse the threat response. I want you to hear this. It's much safer for me if I assume a stick is a snake than if I'm like, that's a stick, and I reach down and I grab it. So evolutionarily, we are pre-programmed toward the negative, if you will, or the threat response. We then access specific self-protective responses. These are embedded. We come pre-made with these. And how many of you have children? Bless us all. How many of you have teenagers? Way blessed. Jesus Christ. I have a 14-year-old daughter and an almost 18-year-old son. I did not have to teach either of them how to hit, or how to run, or how to say no. They come pre-programmed. They also come pre-programmed with this dorsal adaptive response to stop, to survive by freezing, by collapsing. When we can access our first response as mammals, our first cue to safety is each other. That is, we are built to be tribal, and yes, I know there's some danger in tribalism, but just from a physiological standpoint, we are safer together than alone. So our first response, the baby's first response is a cry. That is, come to me. Our first response is also, I need somebody to get me through this. Suffering is human. Suffering and isolation is inhumane. So if I can't get out of this safety threat by attaching, by using someone to get me out of it, all I have left is I have to go to fight or flight. My brain and nervous system are going to do that for me. It's not like I have a pie chart out. Well, pros and cons. My body decides that. Our first response is flight. Like, we want to run away because we're more likely to survive if we get away from the danger, right? that's not an option, again, this is nanosecond, I'm gonna go into fight. All those movements, all of that that's happening chemically and reflexively is embedded in my body to want to do whatever I have to do to overcome the threat. If that is not available, meaning I have to stay in the job, or I'm a first responder, so I actually walk toward threat. They're still mammals, they still have those impulses. I have to stand there and work on a body that is not going to live, and I know that, but we work on them because the family members are there. But I have to hear the primal cries and screams of the family members. Instinctively, I want to leave or go toward them and comfort them, but I can't. So now my body accesses that dorsal brake enough that I can soften what's happening. It's a continuum, but in general, what that will give me is a little numb. It will release these natural analgesics that are basically pain medicine, so that if I'm cut or if I'm hit, I won't actually feel it as much. The blood will go from my extremities, which it did with sympathetic, to my internal organs to protect them. This is brilliant because if I get cut, I'm less likely to bleed out. I mean, this saves lives, right? That's the whole goal, is to survive that moment. But that is last-ditch effort. That is not what my body wants to do. These platforms, these neuro platforms, are laid down in the first 3 years of life, 75% of them. So, and I want to be cautious about this. I can make any baby stop crying. I just don't go one. It's magic. That does not mean I taught them how to actually self-soothe. We aren't born with the neuro platform to self-soothe. It is developed, that ventral vagus, that myelination happens in that first 18 months of life, most rapidly the first 6 months. So we are always built to soothe each other so that I can self-soothe. Not responding does not mean self-soothing. It means collapse. It means I know no one's coming if I cry anyway, so now I just don't. I've had first responders say things like, no one's coming. We're on our own. And they're saying that about their families. Like, no one's gonna help us. And I'm like, actually, there's like 45 other parents that are gonna be at that practice. I bet one of them wouldn't mind driving to get home. But that requires ventral vagal access. That requires knowing or trusting or experiencing, I'm not alone. Someone will come. It's the same platform. When we successfully get away from or overcome, our body utilizes all those twitches, all of the chemicals, all the movement, and it completes the process. And now we can integrate. Now talk therapy, which might be you and your best friend with a cup of coffee. Now we can make sense of it and learn, and we can manipulate the meaning. We can know down in our bones, that wasn't my fault. Or, oh, I won't do that again. I won't touch the hot cup of coffee again. That didn't make sense. But our ability to get to integration is based 100% on completion. Oh, 6 minutes, okay, shit. I don't want Bethany to win and be like, she made it to the end, but you did. Okay, this is my favorite slide. You cannot read anything on the right. I will read that to you. But in general, this is a great picture of our nervous system. So social engagement is a term that Stephen Porges created. I would have named it something else. He didn't ask me. But it kind of, because it implies if I'm with people, I'm in ventral, and that's not true. We all know that because we've all felt lonely with others around, right? And we've also felt connected maybe sitting alone. What this is if the ventral vagal branch is the dominant part of our nervous system that's in charge at the moment. This is what we are experiencing. We experience connection, we experience creativity, we experience compassion for others, we can experience empathy. The number one statement my first responder families say to me is, he has no empathy from me. Now, if he's a first responder, he's acting empathetic for others, like he's doing the thing. But I tell him I'm hurt, or I tell him I'm scared, and I got none of that. Even if he rotely goes through the words, have you guys seen the movie Big Hero 6? Where he's like, there, you are fine, right? It's like robotic like that. They don't feel it. And so my work with them helps by letting the families know he can't, unless he gets in the green. He can't. Please hear that. The brain is stopping him from doing that. What's happening in your body? Okay, do you guys want me to read this thing? Do you want me to go faster? I can read it. Okay, I'll go fast. Thank you. This is what increases your ability to digest, meaning not just the body going through your system, but also absorbing the nutrients. Your resistance to infection, your ability to rest and recuperate. How many of us have slept and we wake up and we are not rested? That's because you're not here when you're asleep. Notice that. Your body can go to sleep without resting. There's a physiological reason why. Your circulation to non-vital organs. Often in my office, I'm like, how are your fingertips? How are your toes? I'm assessing where their nervous system is. If they're cold, I know, unless it's my air conditioner, that their nervous system is going toward freeze. Even if they're sitting there, we're just talking like this, we're having a conversation, but their hands are cold. Or they'll go, oh, I can't even feel my hands and legs. Oh, okay, now I know what's happening. It increases oxytocin. That's the attachment hormone, right? That's the hormone that's released with baby and mother when they're breastfeeding. It's the hormone that's released during special relationships with adults. If you're connected to them, there's a reason the hookup culture is really dangerous. You don't release oxytocin. So you train your body to do things with others. This is what special movies also do. You have behaviors that happen with no attachment. And then you want to get married and be all connected. But your body has learned how to not do that. It's really dangerous. You can retrain it, but it's not going to just click on because you had this ceremony and you had a pretty dress on. It's not what happens. It decreases your defensive responses. When we're in ventral vagal, we can have a disagreement with someone and stay in relationship. I can be politically different than you and have conversation and like really understand, oh, I can see why you would think that and I would think this, because I'm not in a threat response. I can apologize, I can even, God forbid, change my mind and think, well, maybe I didn't understand that. I can see why now, maybe I do need to think differently about something. When we go up into fight or flight, these are the emotions. This is what people see in us, or we see in them, or we see in each other. We're frustrated. That's like the mild agitation, but it's also women. Well, they might be actually experiencing rage, but they'll say I'm frustrated. Because women are trained, we're not supposed to feel that, especially, and I'm a Christian, so I can speak trash about this. Christian women are not allowed to have those because that's all sorts of bad for different reasons. This is so that we can get safe. If we are experiencing any sort of threat, experientially. It may not be intellectually, right? It might be that you are going to have a conversation with your partner. And you know, I am safe with this partner. And a lot of the women I work with will be like, he doesn't hit me. But this is where they're going because they're sensing threat. Their body is sensing threat. Does any of that resonate? You have to raise your hand, especially if you're a Christian woman. Okay. What is happening in our body? Our blood pressure increases, our heart rate, our adrenaline, blood clotting, pupil size. Those are wonderful to help you get out of the threat. Not good to live there. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who's talking to you like this, but their eyes are like this? I've sat in front of firefighters and police officers who are just like this. They're talking about the weekend, and they have no clue that their body is actually in threat. But they're deer in headlights because their body is still looking for danger. And if your pupils are bigger, you are scanning the environment, but you don't even know. Decreases insulin activity, digestion. This is a typo you can't see. It's supposed to say salvation, but it says salvation. So I'm always like, your chances of heaven decrease. Sorry. It's not my plan, it's God's plan. Okay. Your digestion, you guys can eat either don't poop or you poop all the time. It's called IBS. If you're running away from the tiger, your body is going to eliminate anything that's going to take more energy. Scared shitless, that's what, oh sorry, I forgot the kids. Oh, scared bowel movementless, I don't know how to say that. Poopless, scared poopless. You don't tell your body to do it, it does it. I don't know where she's been. We'll check on that. It decreases your immune response. It decreases your relational ability. And I want you to think about that in terms of how that makes perfect sense. Like, it's not time to get connected with someone while I'm trying to run away from a threat. What if the threat lives with me? What if the threat works with me? What if the threat is a part of my tribe that's supposed to keep me safe? Now you got a lot of damage going on because now you have these two systems that are opposed, that are trying to function at the same time. When I'm in threat, my body is cueing threat. So I am basically scaring the people around me without meaning to. They're reading me because they're a mammal, and they're sensing something's threatening, which puts their body into a sense of threat. So now we're just threatening each other back and forth. But we don't know, and we don't mean to necessarily. If that won't work, we only have one more option. You can only go toward that dorsal dominant. You can only go toward that emergency brake. And this is continuum, right? So total emergency brake where your body collapses. So the dive reflex, if someone just slam your face right into the water, your body will go right into that dorsal override. Everything will stop because it's all about energy conservation. When my students first start grad school, I'm like, you're going to gain weight because your body is going to store all the energy because you're threatened, but you can't leave. Like, you can eat water and air and you're going to gain weight. It's happened to me a year ago. Like, I always knew this, but I had not physiologically experienced it so dramatically, but I was in such a threat response that I gained 10 pounds in 2 weeks. I was like, shit, that's amazing. Sorry. I cuss. Pray for me. I just do. Just pray all the things. Your body, my body, and then I had some blood work done, and I had such high infection levels. My doctor was like, something's wrong. Maybe go to the dentist. I think you might have an infection somewhere. And I did not. My body was going to shut down. Like, it scared me. Like, oh shit, I am dying. That my life has put me in such a threat response that it can be measured with blood work. What increases is fuel storage and insulin activity. How has our pre-diabetes numbers gone culturally in the last couple of years? Not good. And we're trying so hard to change, like, eat this, not that, which is good, but you know you can be eating perfectly and still hold the weight or actually increase your weight. And you can be exercising like a bad mamma jamma and not lose weight because your body's just trying to keep you safe. It increases the endorphins that help numb. So I want you to think of how kind of looped that is. I have clients that they're like, I feel fine. And they do, because they're living in that endorphin level that's kind of giving them just enough hit of dopamine that they do feel good, but they aren't okay, but it's not denial, they really feel okay. And as we start working in that break, I start helping them tap it down. Look where they have to go before they get down to the green. And that doesn't feel good. It's scary, and it's physiological. So it's sensory, which is why any type of trauma therapy that you hear selling you this goes fast, I want you to be very cautious about it. Because what they're saying is, you're gonna start to feel this, and I'm gonna teach you how to access the blue over and over and over and over. So you're not gonna feel that until you do. And then you're gonna think, like, I'm broken, but you're not. It takes time for your body to learn how to access this fight or flight, complete it, and then integrate before you can get into the green. One last thing, memory is sensory dependent. So when I'm working with, remember, the mid-lower brain, it can't tell time. That's where memory is stored, and that's where all these impulses are originating. So when my body starts to feel a sensation, feelings are sensations we've labeled. When my body starts to feel a sensation, and previously it learned, oh, this is dangerous, so now I'm gonna numb you, I have to slowly teach their bodies experientially I can access the sensation, and then I'm gonna help you get to safety by connecting with me, or in my room, or with Sierra. And now the body's like, oh, that sensation doesn't always mean threat or death. It catches the lower and mid part of the brain up to the top. That's integration. That's why I could hear a balloon pop and not hit the deck, because my brain has differentiated true threat from the appearance of threat. So, how does this apply to CrossFitters? Heart rate variability is a measure of health. We want the heart to be able to go up and down, and in the down, rest. We want to increase that proportionate to the up, right? So when people are like, my heart rate's only 52, whatever it is, or my heart rate's always here, what I know is they're in the top of that. There's a bundle of nerves that are the pacemaker of the heart. What we're after is getting you to as much green as you can, so that when the heart activates, it does not activate threat. You can access the sympathetic without your body releasing the cortisol, the norepinephrine that is linked to survival. That's how we play. Kids that are connected and playing, if they haven't had trauma, they're not putting their heart at danger. But athletes whose bodies, whose nervous system cannot or rarely gets into that ventral override, their heart is never resting. And this is why police and fire, what kills them are cardiac events. And they're like, well, why, I exercise. Why isn't exercise helping? Because if all you're doing is stressing your heart more without ever resting it. It's like a racehorse that's always running, and then sometimes we just make it run faster, but it never actually stops running. That's how this happens. And so there are movements that we can do that actually access those natural survival movements in a way that completes the cycle, that gets the system unstuck. And you don't have to tell me the story, because I'm looking at the body story. So I'm looking at when you're activated, and we're going to stop there, and we're going to deactivate, or we're going to complete the response. And in doing that, now your body is like, oh yeah, I know how to do this, because it wants to. Here's the hope. Our bodies are always trying to complete that response, because biologically, neurobiologically, we're built for the green. We're not trying to trick it. We're not trying to make it do something it doesn't already know how to do. So yoga, breath work, all of that, keep doing it. But understand that is hijacking the nervous system and pulling it over here. And if there is an incomplete survival response attached to the activation, it will eventually slingshot back over here. Still do it, still do all the stuff, but understand that if there are incomplete survival responses embedded, your body cannot stay over here. It can't, because it's still just trying to protect you. Any questions about that? Before I'm gonna have you guys do a little exercise with me. Oh, I feel freeze. Okay, everybody stand up. Oh, I'm sorry, stand up.
Let's go back to the slide where it shows the 5 steps.
Oh, those little baby steps. I know, I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah, right there. Oh, no, the one there. That one.
do you want me to read them?
Yeah,
So arrest, startle, defensive orienting, then self-protective response, completion, and integration. Self-protective, specific self-protective responses, completion, and integration. So I'm sweating, which means I'm in up. All right, we're gonna all stand up, and I'm gonna ask you to spread out a little bit. We're gonna do something called scope. This was a technique invented by somatically trained nurses who were also working in the ICU during COVID. So they're running, and like death to death to death to death. This is very useful, but I want you to understand it's a technique that is not necessarily going to complete other than responses, but it can help you in the moment, not create another threat response. So the S stands for slowly, and what I want you to do, and I'm going to ask you specifically to not make eye contact, and I'll just be quiet in a minute, but you're going to walk very slowly, and I want you to roll that foot 10 paces at least. So remember, body to brain, 80%. So when I'm going slowly, that sciatic nerve that is attached from the tip of my toe to the base of my neck, my skull, have here, there's a lot of cool things to look at. You might actually orient exits. Kids of cops do that actually. And remember that neck movement. When neck moving is automatically doing my brain whether or not it's safe. My breath is changing. P, pendulation. I want you to find a part of your body that feels, let's say, mildly uncomfortable. And I want you to over-focus on it. So even as I said, I don't have to be I want you to just notice it, and I want you to explore it. What kind of sensation is it? Is it frogs, ache, sharper? And now I want you to find a place on your body that is either neutral or pleasant. Sometimes people can't find that, and so we can manufacture it. If you can't find a place that doesn't hurt, I want you to lift and lower the big toe of your right foot. And I want you to try to not let the others cheat for a minute. Just notice that sensation. And now go back to the original source of discomfort and kind of explore that. Often it will have decreased even slightly. It might have moved. It might have increased. It's okay, whatever it's done. And now go back to a place that feels neutral. And if you use your toe, go to the other foot and raise and lower back the big toe. And the E is for engagement. And now slowly begin to look around and find friendly faces. Make eye contact. If someone there you don't like, do not make eye contact. Stay wide open. Now move your That's scope. Notice what do some people notice in your body for emotions as you do that? You may notice a shift. Yeah, it's nodding, so that means energy is discharging, moving. Anything else? Anxiety is lowered, that's right. That's right, because your body got safer.
It's taking deeper breaths.
Deeper breaths, that's right. Exactly.
Heart rate slowed.
Slow down. So we help bring you through and to ventral. Even if you're just in the slight range, your body's getting a little bit more rest than it was. Okay, that's all I have. I went long. Fast.
I like that you made up a competition and I win.
I know you won. That even better. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out and playing. People might come in and see for just a minute more. So, so last time we did this, or I did this, the goal was kind of just to talk about it, make it something that we can discuss. That's how Kimberly and I got connected, and so we were brainstorming. We have this idea. So, thank you for coming. Like, your commitment has been fulfilled. You've showed up and like done your thing. If you want to work with either one of us, you can.
No, general public. Yeah, and that's the nice thing is with the training that I've had under Mac and Frank, here it's the fitness that we teach is designed to work for anybody. I've had people come in that have, one guy had a brain surgery that left the left side of his body almost unable to move. And he's coming in here and doing the same thing. Age range doesn't matter.
Like from this
Youngest is if they can follow instructions and pay attention. I would say like early teens. Oldest I've coached up to 70, 73. Yeah, if there's any physical limitation, that's my category. Physical limitation, if I can get somebody to move or modify a squat or a pull-up, I can do that all day long. When they get into a state where they need to learn how to modify into these red, the colors that she talks about, she knows all the colors, that's her thing. So the two of us would coach a 1 hour long fitness session that would be designed to get you moving your body so we get the mental health benefits of that, but not override the system where we got a great workout, we have a PR, but now we, are shut down, we can't interact with our family when we get home. That makes sense.
So I think the goals, like we don't know what we're doing together. Just know that.
You guys want to do it too?
So we're gonna have to create this, but the long-term goals, you won't get sick after you work out. How many of you had that, where a great workout and then you get sick, right? And I think will actually increase your strength faster, because your body if it can repair and recover more and faster, it's going to naturally build a capacity to access strength. So your ability to push past, I think is going to be increased, but it will look different and feel different, right? It's not like the biggest loser where you're like, mind over there. There's no such thing. Every cell in your body is connected to every thought. So, and then your recovery the next day will be more efficient, and your relationships will shift. Because we're increasing all the things that happen in ventral. Ventral is known as rest and digest. So if we can get you to ventral more often and to stay there longer, that is going to do more for your health than anything else. Right? You'll digest your food better, you'll digest nutrients better. So how that looks, we don't know. But
We're gonna have cool t-shirts. We want to decide that.
she said, as long as you guys get a t-shirt, you're happy. I'm
I was
like,
like, what do they want it to be called? I was like, just need them to
she's
just
like, I don't care, t-shirt. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Missy.
Yeah.
So I've got these really fancy little pieces of paper. If you guys want to write down your email and phone, or email and name, I think is the best way. I'm gonna develop just a 2-minute survey monkey where we can take kind of like an application process. So gives you kind of an idea what to expect and what we're looking for. And then if you just want to be aware when that program becomes available, we can at least let you know. And then you, of course, get to decide if you want to participate, all that stuff. We'll probably run it for maybe a 4 or 6 week cycle. So we have one class a week for 6 weeks type of a thing. So it'll be contained. And then once we experiment on you guys, once we learn, how it works well, we can either make it a part of Snake River or it can become this program that people can just stay in when they need to jump in and out. I feel like everybody's gonna want to do it, but that's just me.
So, what does that mean? I'm looking for threat response physiologically, and so I don't know what, but I think we have to do squat. I don't know what these people do with their bodies. I don't know. Whatever you're doing. I would be like, let's come over here and let's actually discharge a survival activation, which I don't even know what's happening. But what I'll be doing is I want you to think about whatever that event is that's activating it. And I will always have you 1 to 10, if 10 is the most horrible thing that ever happened to me. No, we're going 4 at the most. And I will be asking you to wait for the impulse to either push or squeeze, those natural movements, or run. And we're gonna move through that, and then your body is now caught up to here. We've And now, when you go back and do whatever she has to do with your body, you're doing it integrated. Now you're not trying to complete a survival response in a way that's not going to complete it. That's what that will look like in very practical terms.
One thing that I think I tell all my onlookers that come through, they're like, don't know what CrossFit is, what we're doing, why. And one of the things I tell them is that CrossFit became really exciting to me because the founder's personal trainer, his dad was an engineer, chemical engineer, and so he grew up with a scientific model and data. And so he, the first personal trainer who decided to think like, if we're gonna get fit, what does that mean? What's the data? And so that's why we hear people like work out for time or what their numbers are. It's just data collection. Are you fitter or not? We just need some metric. In the 80s, it used to be like, how fast can you do the aerobics thing?
And those little tiny shorts.
And the short, yeah. If you're strong, but you can't tie your shoes, or you're strong, but you can't run a mile. So that's kind of the idea that we had with this. Is like, if we're going to talk about healing or trauma or whatever, we got to make it measurable. So it seems to me like a perfect fit with the CrossFit approach of like, let's get data, what your data is, if we're going to measure relationships or whatever, we're still going to decide that. But we'll have some measure at the beginning of this and the end of this 6 weeks. Are we better? We aren't just going to guess. Maybe we can feel better, but we want.
Would anybody like to share who's with the experience with this? I don't know, people in the room that may have had some experience of using this approach.
Oh, yeah.
Hypothetically, if anybody.
I think I have experience with this.
Oh, thank you, Regina.
I do. Yes. So I had a mysterious post-COVID symptom that is linked to our heart rate. So after I got sick in 2020, Yeah, so,
Thank you, Matt. Also, thank you, St. River, for giving us the platform to talk about this. Matt's like, whatever you want to do. Like, what if we did a class? She's like, great. Like, but it's gonna be a really big deal. She's like, yep. Do it. So, thank you, St. River, for being the platform.
best of this.
Massive action. Thank you, guys. If you guys want to do an email thing, just write your emails down, or if you know me on social or Dr. Crawford, you can message us or Matt.
Well, I don't mind. I'm Gigi. Well, we were, the other boy, Adam's, me, his name is Gandhi. Scott's Papa Whiskey, the player. And I think, that it was. Well, I'm always glad to be in. I've been grandkids and stuff. And then, just to go back and I said, Gigi's like, great grand. That's awesome. You know, I said, I sat there and listened. Yeah. Yeah, you know, and we're seeing for spouses. I say that, and then that's, I know what you're too. So, home life, family, it's all those years. That's what the is. So when you do well, yeah. I think we have.
No, no, she's not.
Well, because I wasn't.
One and two years done.
And,
Both of them.
we met at one. Oh, okay, yes, okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah,
But, I did, I started out with
yeah.
you know, I just,
Yes. Gotcha. Yeah. Yes.
and you kind of don't have that family, you know what I'm saying, you're not really looking at
Yeah. It's hard.
well, and see, that's what I,
the support system too, so it really takes its toll.
And I just I'm still working.
Yeah,
I can start with
there's a lot of stigma to, yeah, yep.
and I'll probably do that.
Yeah, the conversation is changing for sure, and the culture is evolving, and we're so on board for that. Yeah.
And if I could just turn myself around, just say, just
Yeah. Yes. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
this is awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I think we have done it in the past. Okay. Yeah. We'll just get it on the books then. That would be great. That'd be perfect. So that would be awesome. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. We'll see you.
I'm a perfect candidate. We're gonna go back. This is now this 18, then I'm gonna go back to the 20 years. So that's why I haven't been back. They said, no more CrossFit, yeah, no more CrossFit. But I just want to, I'm walking every day and stuff, but I'm still, definitive on that. But I'm just gonna,
Hard to dial.
it is, yeah, but I miss the community and stuff, so. Yes. Yeah. Work out, yeah.
I don't know about Kimberly. Am I doing this?
That is modern, yes.
Well, you know what? I ordered these. And they have one now. But it's like a, this is like, I just have like a prescription phone and it sees like all the contact, my face, like the picture, everything. website link.
Like with the QR code? Or just...
Well, it's like a different type of business card, just like.
Oh, not this one, that's
Well, it was fancy, but everybody was this thing. I thought it was modern, like QR code again. There's another thing.
It's even more modern. That's right.
Even more. You can't keep up.
Well, thank you for today. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the blankets. That helped out.
You know what happened? Because when I talk to people, but that's the nice thing is, I think a lot of people connect with this, and the last time I did this was a 4 hour just me talking about how to be a scholar with the lifestyle. Like, I don't even think of any it's funny that I just had a call about it. Everything is different to say I'm bad at talking. I'm good with body. Like I can see what's happening in the body. One thing that from my perspective in my
all the stuff that
I don't need to know all of it. Just because it is something that I'm trying to so powerful and validate the story of like I need that like building up and there's a nice it's nice to just does work with my clients. We're always kind of manipulating my joints and manipulating with breath. The result of my clients is that it's a very restful experience. You feel the body. So I feel like the muscles totally rest without almost having to almost know like actually muscle work. The joints are just and so it's nice to have that piece of it. And when she's talking about vision, hearing, everything changes with these changes in our bodies. So when the body work component, working through that, I've had our clients get up off the table and like reoriented to the players and like this feels different, it looks different, it feels nice. So I'm not going into that in mind, I'm just offering the body support and they adjust inside where it needs to. But it can create a different experience. And then in those settings, with your husband, there can be a need, there's a desire to be something that's body in this, and all the stress is not allowed, obviously, by this function, it just is. I definitely it's vulnerable because that is so.
I missed the first 20 minutes. I should have been the whole place. And I'm like, oh, it's real life. I'm not in the right spot.
Oh yeah, I should have.
Well, and I just heard being a Facebook post, and I'm like, I'm there, and I put it on my calendar, but yeah, didn't think that's where I was because I thought I knew.
Yeah.
So